Eerily haunting true stories about remote abandoned locations rich in history. Come with us in our travels from state to state, if you dare.
Could be the last time anybody sees us alive. I don't know where she has us, but we're gonna fucking kill her.
Hello? Judy, there is a beehive over there. Do you see that in the hole?
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Hello. I'm Shannon,
I'm Gina.
and we are here again. I'm excited because I haven't seen you in a couple weeks.
I know. I was busy last Friday.
You had a hot date.
I did. I was at Universal Studios.
Yeah, for your grad night.
And let me tell you, when I say I was there all night and all morning and all day and all everything.
Yeah. So how many times have you graduated from high school?
Well, the funny thing is I didn't even walk at my own graduation.
But you've been walking
Because
with
they
everybody
wouldn't let
else's.
me
Yeah.
because I had a kid. So the first time I actually wore a cap and gown and walked in a high school graduation was with my students.
With one of your students.
With one of my students, yeah.
Yeah. And how many times since
Oh
then?
God, I don't know. Man, a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've worn that cap and gown. And the funny thing was, you know, they always make you wear like your school colors and blah blah blah. Well, they didn't have any to fit me this year. My height. They only had like a 5'9" one and what I was supposed to wear. So I wore a doctorate one. So I was making it everybody call me
right,
doctor. I'm like,
Doctor.
excuse me, it's doctor tonight.
Thank you.
Well, I have this gown on until I take it off. You're to call me doctor.
Yes.
So, but yes, I gotta say that we've been having some weird weather here. Like it's been really cloudy and crazy here in LA. So, doesn't feel like summer at all.
No.
But I am not by any means complaining because this is the first year that I've worked graduation that I have not been out in the blistering sun.
It was nice.
It was beautiful. And then Universal Studios couldn't have been better weather.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
yeah, it was absolutely perfect.
Universal Studios is one of my favorite places to go.
I
like
was
the
all
shows.
good until I got on the Harry Potter ride.
Oh, no. You did not get on the Harry Potter ride.
Oh, yes, I did.
Did you know what the Harry Potter ride was before you got on it?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Can I tell you about my experience on the Harry
Well,
Potter ride?
here's the thing. My coworker and her boyfriend were there, and she was like, "Ooh, I don't know if you want to go on that." And I was like, "Well, as long as it doesn't go in a circle, like I'll do roller coasters all day.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't go in a circle, I'm usually cool."
My thing is,
She's
as long
like-
as it doesn't go upside down.
Well, I can do the upside down thing.
Can't do it. No.
But I think, and this is how, I don't know how many of you have been out here to Universal Studios, but it's like a lot of like, what is that called? Like where it's like
They have the screen. So it's like,
and all their rides are like that.
yeah, even at Disneyland, they're changing it to that. But the thing is that Savannah got me on it because she said it doesn't go upside down. And so I said,
It doesn't technically.
it does.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, yeah, it does. If you looked at the people that were above you, they're upside down because that's how I knew that it was going to go
kinda
upside
like
down.
spins you like this and then you're sitting like this.
You're upside down. That's upside down.
But you're not like flipping.
No, you don't flip, but the ride goes upside down and moves upside
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
Like it's not like a roller coaster flip, but I just don't like going upside down. And so when I got in line and I got on that ride, when they put that thing and it goes over your shoulder,
Yeah.
I looked over at my daughter and I said, this shit's going to go upside down. Like you already know the way they buckle
Yeah.
you in.
Yeah.
If I just had a lap bar, it's
Yeah.
my type of ride. I don't care. Roller coaster, whatever. It's my type of ride. As long as it doesn't do the takeoff either, because I can't do that Disneyland
Yeah.
takeoff ride. But as long as it's just like doo-doo-doo and, Revolution,
Yeah.
love it. Colossus, love it. I can do it. Do-do-do-do-do. The minute they made me put that thing, I looked at my daughter and I said, you bitch, this ride goes upside down. She goes, no, it doesn't. But I don't think you really know it does unless you're looking at, because it's
You're
not
just
really-
moving.
yeah.
It's just
It's moving all
moves you
different ways.
everywhere, and like you're I don't know. I don't even know what the hell was happening. I'm not a Harry Potter fan at all, so I don't know any of those characters. I just know Mr. Potter was on a broom and we were following him through something warts. I don't know. Hogwarts.
And you were playing Quidditch or something, right?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, my boss was, so I was in one thing. There's four seats in the thing.
Yeah.
So I was in one. My student was right here, and then my boss was next to me, and she was hyperventilating, and I couldn't like lean forward enough to see her. So I was just like putting my arm out, like, okay, I'm gonna. And my student was just like digging it. He loved it so much. The only ride that he didn't like, and he begged and pleaded to go on it, was the Mummy ride.
Oh yeah, I didn't go on that ride.
He got off it there and he said, "No mummy."
Yeah.
He hated it.
But I was going to take everybody down a rabbit hole too that I went down. I was going to tell you earlier because you had said something about your grandma used to always say. What did she used to always say?
About what?
Your grandma.
My grandma said a lot of things.
About
some
the
that
dead.
She used to always, when we would make her mad, me or my grandpa or my dad or somebody, and she would always tell us, "When I wake up dead."
Yes.
You're like, what?
When I wake up
dead. All right.
So I went down a rabbit hole the other day on YouTube where the afterlife experiences. And I found that really, really cool and comforting. Like some of the stories that people were telling that were really similar to one another.
Oh.
So that's what it reminded me of, where this guy was talking about how he didn't even want to come back. Like he was perfectly happy there, and how they met with these beings and stuff. And one day we're going to have to sit with Heidi on what she thinks about the conspiracy of the government and aliens. And
oh my God. Did you not listen to Rare Farm Radio?
I haven't caught up.
Okay. Well, let me just say that the Rare Farm Radio bonus episode that I did with Dan.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
I'm so bad.
Well, that was last month.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing. When I did, Shannon was out in Australia.
I
Jesus.
was, I just,
Shannon
with
was
the
out in
wallabies.
Australia.
No,
Dan was
Alaska.
actually in Australia a couple months ago, but Shannon was in Alaska. Heidi was being cool, and she was like at a really bitchin' ass concert. So Dan and I recorded a bonus episode, and when I walked in the door, that's all he could talk about.
Was the alien in Vegas?
No, not even the Vegas one. Like, he is balls deep in this alien stuff.
We
to the point where he said that he told his wife, "I know that people can get like, really sucked into this kind of stuff. And if I start to get too sucked into it, please let me know."
Okay.
So thoughts on aliens, please.
Yeah.
Comment below.
But did you see the video about the police officers going to the house and the guy like legit like
Dan's got a lot of information on all of this.
We have to meet up.
So maybe we will do not a bonus episode. Maybe we'll do a regular episode with them.
Yeah.
So
but that was
so we can get that out there right now while all this alien stuff is hot.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
Well, today's episode.
Yes. Today's episode. So I want to put this out there. This is very disturbing episode, more so than others. I will be doing all of the reading today. Shannon has a really hard time with these stories.
I do.
So yes, this is just a little bit of a warning. This has to do with children. And it is a very, very, very sad and gruesome graphic story. Yeah. Yes. So please be warned, because it's definitely one of the harder stories that we've done. So this story was actually brought up to me a couple months ago by somebody that I work with, and she's the bus driver who drives my students, And I kind of, when I first had met her, she wasn't into true crime at all. And so she was like, oh, what do you listen to? Like, she had really never listened to a lot of podcasts and stuff. So I was like, my favorite true crime one is True Crime Garage. I said, but there's so many true crime podcasts.
Yeah.
So then I got her hooked on that. So then she started kind of dabbling out there in different ones. And so she had asked me if I had ever heard of this case before. And this is the case of a girl named DeAsia Watkins. And I had never heard about it before. And so I started doing research on it a couple months ago, and I said, "Ooh, I don't know if Shannon can do this one."
I would not be able to do this one.
But I want to do it because number one, I want to, again, like we've done the case of Andrea Yates, the lady who killed her 5 children in Texas. And this is, again, another one of those cases. And unfortunately, I think that, like I said back in that episode months ago, I think that postpartum is something that's just kind of looked over a lot and not really taken seriously sometimes. And there's so many different levels of it. And this is just a case where it got very, very bad. And there's a difference between postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis. And in both of these cases, both of these women suffered from postpartum psychosis. Something has to happen. Because in this case, this girl was only 20 years old.
Oh, she was a baby herself.
Yeah. And I'll get into her early, early upbringing. She did not have a good upbringing, but she had no record. She was never in trouble with the law. She never was into drugs. She was never into anything. This behavior literally came on very, very quickly and very drastically, and escalated very quickly.
So there were no
the birth.
Signs. Yeah, I was going to, and that was typical. I mean, Yates and the mother who.
But she kind of like dealt with depression and stuff.
That is true.
But in this case, I don't know. I don't know how those things work. Like, if you come from a family with mental illness, you're probably more prone to it. And this girl's mother did have some issues. So this girl's name is DeAsia Watkins, and she was born on November 21st, 1994. She was born to a mentally ill mother and an absent father. She was bounced from home to home for several years, enduring neglect that was very severe. According to court records, the first years of DeAsia's life were spent in conditions unfit for children. She was routinely left alone or in the care of strangers in a dirty College Hill apartment. She didn't have enough food or enough clothing. She was verbally abused and neglected. Her mother was an alcoholic and abused drugs. Records show that a teenager was raped in the family's apartment while babysitting DeAsia and her older brother. In 1998, when she was 3 years old, a prosecutor wrote, "There are reasonable grounds to believe the children are in immediate danger." For the next 10 years, DeAsia became a part of the juvenile court proceedings that would involve dozens of hearings and countless reports from therapists and social workers, and stints in at least 5 different homes, including an emergency shelter for kids. Her father, Terrence Watkins, was imprisoned for at least part of DeAsia's childhood and was absent for the rest of it. Her mother, Tina Johnson, was diagnosed with depression, mild mental retardation, and schizoaffective disorder, a condition in which a person suffers from hallucinations and other symptoms similar to schizophrenia. I had never heard
Is
of
it
that
like
before.
just like a sudden onset of things? Maybe it's not a condition where it's like
that maybe what it sounds like.
like it sounds like it's just like episodes.
Maybe.
But it's not. Yeah.
In 1997, a psychiatrist wrote, Tina Johnson showed significant deficiencies with respect to parenting and intellectual function. This dysfunction in the home took a toll. DeAsia suffered from grief and abandonment issues and barely spoke for the first 4 years of her life. Records show that when others would try to step in and care for DeAsia, her mother argued she would retain custody and went to court repeatedly demanding her daughter return home. Juvenile court magistrates took custody of DeAsia and her brother in 1998. Because the two children had different fathers, each went to live temporarily with a different relative in Cincinnati. For a short time, DeAsia's home life improved, and social workers thought she was happy and well cared for. However, the aunt who was acting as her temporary guardian said personal problems made it impossible for her to continue to do so. When the aunt gave up custody, a family friend, Barbara Owens, agreed to take her in. DeAsia was only 5 years old, and Owens, who had raised 10 of her own children and also a lot of grandchildren that she could play with, thought she would give DeAsia a stable home. Owen said that she was smart and seemed like a typical child in many ways, but her tough childhood weighed on her. You could tell that she was holding stuff in. DeAsia's therapist reached a similar conclusion, records show, and expressed concern that the girl might have been sexually abused by someone outside of Owens' home. She recommended halting overnight visits with relatives. No charges were filed, but the therapist described sexualized behaviors consistent with abuse and said that DeAsia shuts down when asked about it. By late 2002, social workers concluded that DeAsia was thriving with Owens, who provided a caring and nurturing environment for the child. DeAsia continued to ask about her mother even during long absences. She asked her therapist during one session, "Do you think she thinks of me?"
Oh,
Isn't that sad?
She's only 8 years old. I
Like,
mean, she's
that's
probably
so awful. Like,
yeah.
do you think she thinks of me? Like, so a few years later in 2005, her mother was back in the picture. She petitioned the court to regain custody of her children and accused Owens of neglecting her daughter. Johnson wrote the court, "I can take care of my children now. I got myself together and I miss my children very much. I want to see them and I want them to come home." DeAsia's mother had a lot to overcome. She had repeatedly failed to do what the court had asked her to do before losing custody, including dropping out of drug treatment programs, missing appointments for supervised visits, not paying her bills, and skipping her daughter's therapy sessions with the counselor. On the day of her custody hearing, Johnson didn't show. She explained her absence in a written plea to the magistrate. "I am a good mother. I love my children with all my heart. I missed the bus, so I had to wait for the next one, and that wait was an hour." Johnson kept up her fight in court even after her complaint against Owens was dismissed and continued to see her daughter during supervised visits. Social workers' reports suggested that Johnson sometimes put her own interests ahead of her daughter's. In one case, DeAsia's therapist asked her mother to change her visitation schedule so DeAsia could join the Big Sister program. Johnson refused and told the therapist, "No one thinks about my needs, they think about her needs." Yeah, she's a kid.
Thank you. She should not be.
I mean, come on. Yeah. The therapist reports to the courts say that constant turmoil was hard on DeAsia. Her grades in school started to suffer, and she struggled with her loyalty to her mom and to Owens. In 2006, a social worker wrote, "DeAsia feels torn in two." Records show a year later, Owens gave up custody, saying the consistent harassment by DeAsia's biological relatives was too much. She said she called the girl's social worker, who took her to the Lighthouse shelter. DeAsia was 12 years old and without a home again. Another relative, Michelle Johnson, stepped in and took temporary custody of her, and social workers said she provided a good home for her in West Price Hill. However, DeAsia's mom went back to court to once again demand custody. Her custody claim was dismissed for the last time in December 2008 when she failed to show up for her court hearing.
Why is she even trying? I feel like maybe she gets sober for a little bit and goes on like
and
a
then,
kick and then
wants her back and then doesn't want the responsibility.
Yeah.
The juvenile court record ends when DeAsia was 14 years old. So it just sounds like for the first 14 years of her life, she
Is
was
in
just
out of homes.
tossed around to different homes.
Does it say how many siblings she had that the mom was fighting for?
One brother,
Okay.
but different dad.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You did.
Yeah,
say that.
they had different dads. So she, it was said that when she got pregnant, that when she got pregnant, she was very excited because she wanted to give this baby a home that she had never had. And she wanted to show this baby love that she never had. And this was, you know, there were interviews that I read with people who grew up with her and that were friends of hers. And they all said that they had seen her pregnant and she was so excited. And so, you know, like just, they could not believe that this story, it was actually
ended the way it happened.
It just, they were just shocked that this really happened. So, so now we're going to fast forward, and DeAsia Watkins is 20 years old. She has a boyfriend named James Brown.
James Brown.
Yeah. So they welcomed their baby. Her name was DeAsia Watkins on December 4th, 2014.
That's a pretty name.
I know, it's pretty. I like
DeAsia.
DeAsia.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty. DeAsia was said to have been excited about becoming a mother and wanted to give her daughter a better childhood than she had. On January 25th, 2015, around midnight, 911 was called by multiple neighbors because they could hear DeAsia yelling and screaming and could hear a baby crying. When police came to the door, she refused to open it. The police then threatened to break the door down, and then a young man opened it. This young man was the cousin of James. As soon as police went into the apartment, the smell of pot was overwhelming, and DeAsia's behavior was said to be very erratic, and she was said to be talking in tongues. And that was something that a lot of articles and videos that I watched on it, a lot of people said that she would like talk this gibberish, like just not even, you couldn't understand what she was saying, but she kept saying that she was talking to demons.
Oh,
yeah.
It sounds maybe like the mom's condition.
Yeah.
With the
hallucinating and stuff like that, maybe.
And this just so like, even though it sounds 2014, 2015, that's only like 6-8 weeks, like almost like that's not even a year.
No,
like,
the
this
baby
is
was
just
7 weeks
later.
old when this happened.
This is only weeks later.
Yeah. So the
Okay.
baby's 7 weeks old at this time.
Okay.
Yeah. The officers were concerned about the baby's safety and tried to take her from DeAsia. This making DeAsia very upset. She tried to choke the baby. The police then called EMTs to the apartment to perform a welfare check on her and the baby. They managed to take baby Janiyah, and then DeAsia immediately passed out on the floor with her eyes open. The cause of this is still unknown. She was then transferred to a hospital where she underwent psychiatric care and remained on a 72-hour hold. By the next day, DeAsia had been diagnosed with postpartum psychosis. She insisted that she hadn't taken anything. However, marijuana was found in her system. Marijuana is not going to make her do any of this.
No, I don't think so. And can you get, this is me asking a dumb question, but can you get, can marijuana be found in your system if you're in a house where they smoke it, but you're not smoking it? I would assume so because you're still inhaling.
Probably.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. But nevertheless, that's not going to make her. That would never make not an excuse for her to do.
No.
The doctors then prescribed her an antipsychotic medication. Because of the side effects of this medication, doctors told DeAsia that she would not be able to nurse Janiyah anymore. Nurses that cared for DeAsia noted that they didn't feel like she was completely understanding the seriousness of this situation. So I just want to say, there are a lot of videos out there, and I'm going to try to put in this video as many as I can. I don't want to get a copyright strike.
Yeah.
Because they are long. They are like 20, 30 minutes long. But it is so interesting to see her completely disassociate. The first time that she is interviewed, the first day, she says nothing. they are trying to interview her and she speaks no words whatsoever. Like, she does not talk. Nothing. No emotion.
That's funny. And this is somebody who was really excited to have a baby.
It's the oddest behavior. And so I'm going to try to put in as much video as I can put in here. But if I cannot put as much in as I would like to, the 911 call alone, to me, is very controversial. We can talk about that after. But please look it up. It's on YouTube and you can find a bunch of stuff. But please look it up and just watch her behavior, how it drastically changes from one day to the next. Like, this is somebody that is suffering from mental illness.
Breakdown.
Like, this is so sad. So sad. So by January 30th, DeAsia was released and had returned to the apartment. Officials then put a safety plan in place. If DeAsia continued to take her medication, she would be allowed supervised visitations with Janiyah. So DeAsia was not on board with any of this. I think she, honestly, in her mind, didn't think anything was wrong with her.
Oh, yeah.
So she hadn't...
That's typical.
Yeah. She hadn't filled any of her medication, and James made it very clear to her that in order for her to stay in the home, she would have to take her medication.
Was James home at the time that this event occurred, or was just his cousin?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if he was there or not. So the apartment was in James's name and DeAsia had nowhere else to go, so she agreed to take her medication. So on February 6th, 2015, now mind you, the baby was born December 4th. So the baby's 2 months old at this time. A social worker showed up at the apartment unannounced and was unable to confirm that DeAsia had filled her prescription. By the end of February, DeAsia had left the apartment and moved in with an aunt. On March 6th, custody hearings began. Paternity hadn't been established and a mental health assessment needed to be done. The magistrate appointed custody to the Hamilton County Job and Family Services. During the interim, Janiyah was placed with Deborah Stewart, DeAsia's aunt. Neither James or DeAsia were allowed to see Janiyah at this time, and the aunt, Deborah Stewart, agreed to the terms. During a visit to the house, Deborah said that Janiyah was doing well and that she wasn't allowing either parent to see the child. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case. Deborah was dealing with health issues and was having a hard time taking care of a brand new baby. So it's later said that...
Did the aunt take custody but yet gave it back to the parents?
No. So she allowed her to move back in.
Oh, so she was living there
because the aunt later says that she took custody of the baby in the interim before she could be placed somewhere. She felt like she was forced to do that by family because they wanted to help. They didn't want the baby to be placed in foster care, and everybody said, like, just take her and we'll help you.
Oh, okay.
But she had the aunt, this Deborah Stewart, was said to have many, many medical problems. I believe she was going blind. She was losing her sight. Whatever disease that she had was very painful. She was in pain a lot. And she knew, like, I can't take care of a child on my own, but just did this, I think, because she was trying to do as much as she could, hoping that she would get help from other people. Yeah. So a few days prior to the visit, DeAsia had actually moved into Deborah's home, because I think that happened when she moved out of James's apartment when he said, you have to take your medication. She's like, I'm not doing it. So she asked, and the aunt was probably like, okay, like, I'm going to keep you here, hush, hush, but you're going to have to help me take care of the baby. So 3 days later, in the early hours of March 16th, 2005, a 911 call was received. Cincinnati police officers reported to the home of DeAsia's aunt in the 5900 block of Walkway Lane and found the 3-month-old baby dead inside. The baby's body was found on the kitchen counter by a 5-year-old relative who was dropped off to wait for a school bus. So there were 3 kids, school age kids, that were dropped off at her house every morning at the aunt's house, and that's where they waited for their school bus to pick them up. So the dad had dropped him off. They're family members. The dad had dropped this little boy off, and the little boy had gone into the kitchen, and the baby was on the kitchen counter. And this little 5-year-old boy is the one who discovered the baby on the counter.
Did he know what he was seeing?
I believe so. I mean, obviously he knew something was wrong by the amount of blood, I'm sure. And this child's father is Deborah's son.
Okay.
So he is the one who calls, he's the one that makes the 911 call. So you'll hear in the 911 call that he's talking to the 911 operator, and you can tell he's in shock. You can tell that he's trying to get his point across to her without being graphic, because she keeps saying, is the baby alive? Is the baby alive? Does the baby have a heartbeat? Is the baby breathing or whatever? And he's just like, listen to me. Listen to what I am saying. The baby is not alive. Like, please listen to me. In the beginning of the 911 call, you hear the aunt talking very calm, very composed. She's talking to her son, who is the guy who ends up talking to the 911 operator. And as soon as she hears the 911 operator pick up, she immediately goes into hysterics. And at one point, the 911 operator says to her, ma'am, before you knew I was on the line, you were talking just fine. I need you to compose yourself and talk to me like that, because all of a sudden you're hysterical.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was all about. I don't know if she just, I mean, when people are in shock, who knows?
Who knows?
You know what I mean?
You never know how people are going to react.
You don't. Unfortunately, it's just something that happens, and sometimes it makes people look guilty, and sometimes it doesn't put them in a very good light. And I think because she starts saying, they're going to put me in jail, they're going to arrest me, they're going to put me in jail. And I think she's fearful because obviously she clearly knows she didn't do this, but she knows that she made a mistake by letting her niece come back in.
Yeah, she wasn't supposed to be there at the house.
Yeah. So.
Thanks so much for being here, Robert.
Christian Stein, where's the address of your emergency?
Somebody please send the police. My niece
Okay,
killed
ma'am.
her baby. Please.
What is the address?
5957 Wildwood.
Okay, ma'am.
Lord, help me.
Ma'am, who were you just you were just talking to somebody. Who were you just talking to?
My son, he came over here, he found that I was asleep. And he let his kids in to go to school because they go from my house. And he seen the baby on my, oh my God, help me.
Listen to me, I need you to stop crying, okay? Stop crying.
Oh
I need you to help. I need you to take a deep breath and tell me what happened.
Ma'am, please send the police right away.
Ma'am, you weren't crying when I heard you talking to him. You were fine. And then when I picked up, you started crying. I need you to tell me what's going on.
Ma'am, I am crying. I was outside screaming.
What happened?
But he keeps telling me to calm down. I don't
What
know
happened?
All I know is my son came in here and woke me up and said, Mama, the baby's dead. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What I'm going to do because she killed this baby. Oh, God.
Okay, why are you saying she killed the baby?
Because the baby is in the room. Here, talk to my son, brother.
How old is the baby?
The baby is 3 months. Oh, my God, I'm going to jail.
Hello?
What happened?
Police. I don't know. This house is big. I don't know where my little cousin is. So can you please...
Where is the 3-month-old baby?
The baby is on my mama's kitchen counter with his head smashed. Now I need you to please send me...
Okay, is it a male or female?
Know where my little cousin is at. Now if a little girl pop up with a weapon, I'm not gonna have a little cousin no more. So can you please? I know the protocol. Can you please just send the police?
Okay, I need to know what happened to the baby.
I don't know what happened to the baby. I came into the house. She told me. Came into the house. The baby was on the counter. My mom was in the bed asleep. I woke my mom up and we calling you. That's all I know. I don't know nothing else. I have a little cousin. She was here. I don't know.
Okay. Listen to me.
Look,
Is the baby breathing?
listen, lady. The baby is deceased.
Okay. All right, we're sending the police and an ambulance, okay?
Mama.
What is your name, sir?
Mama, shush. Hello?
What is your name?
I'm Robert Stewart.
And who is the mother of the child?
Huh?
Who is the mother?
DeAsia. What is DeAsia's last name? Watkins.
Is she there right now?
No, I don't know where she's at. That's the problem. I don't know where this little girl is at. I don't even know if she's in this house. It's a big house, lady. Please. I don't want to look for her. I don't want to look for her. So if you please send the police.
Listen to me, sir. We already have the run started, okay?
All right.
So no one has any idea what happened to the child.
Listen, lady, I cannot explain to you what happened because I do not know. Nobody knows. It happened sometime in the middle of the night.
Okay, what do you see when you look at the child?
My children, look, lady, I don't want to describe the scene. The screen is very, very bad, all right? The little baby head is open, open. I'm not going in there to touch nothing because I don't want to mess nothing up. I'm not going in there to look because I already seen it, but it's very violent. It's a very violent scene, all right? It's very violent.
All right, sir, we have police and fire department responding out.
All right. I got to go back to the car because my kids is outside. I don't know where this girl is at. Now, Ma, I need you to either go lock yourself in here or I'm finna go, because I got to go out here with them. Then come outside, Ma. You got to pick, because I got to be out there with them.
Yeah. So the baby's on the counter. The knife that was used on the baby was found placed in the baby's hand. And later you'll hear DeAsia say that she put the knife in the baby's hand to make it look like she did it to herself. I'm going to describe briefly the injuries, but
so just warning people.
Yeah, it's very
fast forward.
It's very graphic, so please if this is, obviously it's hard for anybody in their right mind to listen to, but the baby was stabbed multiple times. And she had a broken arm and she was completely decapitated. Her head was completely not attached to her body. Her head was completely cut off. So, I think that is why when 911 was called and this gentleman was trying to get his point across when they kept saying, does she have a heartbeat? Is she breathing? And he's just like, lady, you're not listening to me.
Yeah.
Just get to my house. Please just send help.
Yeah.
This is not, we're not going to need any life-saving measures at this point.
Yeah.
So the first two officers that arrived on the scene went into the home. One of the officers went into the kitchen and confirmed that the baby was deceased. The other officer found Deborah in the bathroom in the master bedroom, which is the aunt. Once other officers were called to the scene, the rest of the house was searched, and they found DeAsia in her room, in the bed, tucked under the blankets, and she was covered in blood, which you can only imagine. She was immediately handcuffed. She was, DeAsia, along with the family, were taken to the Cincinnati police station. After many lies and different stories, the authorities were able to get the truth. While Deborah was inconsolable in one room, DeAsia was in the room next to her, calmly sitting while handcuffed, quietly humming a song. She sat there for 2 hours with her head on the table. When detectives came in, they asked her a few questions, and she refused to speak at all. She also refused to sign the papers stating that she had been read her rights.
Hi. Are you Dee Dee? My name's Jen. This is Jake. Are you handcuffed? Would you be more comfortable?
Do you understand what I read to you, or do you have any questions on it? But do you not want to talk to us?
Dee Dee.
Officers helped her stand up and take pictures of her, and then they took her clothes as evidence. After 6 hours of meeting with her, they got nowhere. She refused to speak. She was then transferred to the psychiatric unit and held for observation. 3 days later, on March 19th, she was brought back in for questioning. She again was read her rights and agreed, and she signed the paper. At this time, now she is speaking and interacting with detectives and answering their questions. A few days prior, when detectives were interviewing Deborah's sister, Cindy, she said that on March 6th, at the hearing, Deborah was asked to take the baby into her care, and that's when she feels like she had expressed to her family that she needed help, that she couldn't do this on her own, because of, her being ill and with all of her medical problems. And she thought that she had made that clear at court, but clearly I don't think people thought that it was going to end this way. So when the trial began in April 2015, a judge ordered that DeAsia undergo treatment and postponed her next court date 6 months. She was then found competent to stand trial in September 2015.
Doctors found that she suffered from postpartum psychosis, but was then found to be competent to stand trial. Today in court, Watkins pleaded guilty to murder. She will not be eligible for parole for at least 15 years.
DeAsia pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, and in November 2016 rejected a plea deal. She wanted to go to trial with an insanity plea. DeAsia's attorney said that there were conflicting reports on whether or not she actually had a mental illness. That breaks my heart. I mean,
who are these conflicting reports coming from? Different psychiatrists?
I think, so they say one prosecutor said that there's an enormous amount of evidence that demonstrated that the defendant appreciated the wrongfulness of her conduct.
But like we said with Andrea Yates at the time too, I think they
put that in out of because we put that interview in there.
Yeah, and they go in and out of understanding. They know what is wrong. They just can't control the impulse of wrong.
Yes, and
it's just
because that Andrea Yates interview is so hard to watch, and that video, that interview that we put in our video, if you haven't watched our episode on Andrea Yates, you can go back. I think it was sometime in late January or early February. Yeah. But there's literally an interview that I put in that episode where she was interviewed literally hours after killing 5 of her children, and they ask her, "Did you fill the bathtub up with water?" And she said yes. And the guy says, "And what did you intend to do?" And she said, "Kill the children."
Yeah.
Just like saying, "Can I have a hamburger?"
Yeah.
It's like no emotion, no nothing. And they're saying here that during multiple court hearings, DeAsia was exhibiting blank stares with little discernible reaction to her surroundings.
Same.
But that's what mental illness is, Like
you said earlier, you disassociate.
Yes.
You're like, you're not that person. Your out of body experience, maybe kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. So her attorney argued that she had no idea what was going on around her. So on February 23rd, 2017, DeAsia Watkins pleaded guilty to murder and was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. She is serving her sentence at Ohio Reformatory for Women. She will be eligible for parole on March 12th, 2030, which is in 7 years.
So they put her in jail, but Andrea Yates went to a mental facility.
I feel like this is what she's at. She's at a reformatory for women.
Oh, it's a reformatory. Oh, so it's almost similar.
Yes. Okay. And again, not to keep going back to the Andrea Yates thing, but I think that there's so many parallels here. She is in this... it's not a jail. It's just, she basically can leave. Every year she's up for dismissal or whatever you want to call it. And she has enough wherewithal to know that, which I'm sure under medication, I'm sure she's forced to take medication, but she has enough wherewithal to know that this is where she needs to be. and she does
what-
not want to be
yeah.
released.
What would she do coming out? Like there,
Mhm.
she's a productive member of their society.
Mm-hmm.
What would she do coming out?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. She would not be able to get a job
over. Yeah.
anywhere. Nobody's gonna hire her.
Yeah.
And
What's she gonna
there,
do?
her medication is regulated, and
She's protected there too.
Yep.
Out here in the open. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that hate what she did.
Absolutely. And that's why I just, I feel after really researching like this case, it's so sad that, I mean, especially today, I think mental illness is such a huge problem in today's society. But again, I wanted to cover this because I feel like mental illness is just kind of like thrown into this big, like they're all the same, and they're so not.
Well, and I feel like these mothers aren't getting the help they deserve. I think maybe after you have a baby, maybe there's questionnaire or on your 6-week follow-up, it's not just, oh, hey, how are your stitches doing? Hey, mentally, how are you doing? Maybe a questionnaire that you have to fill out. Every time I go to a doctor, like right now I have a doctor's appointment on Monday, and I had to fill out a questionnaire asking me my food security, transportation security, how's my mental health, how do I feel? So I think now they're paying more attention to it, but I just think they need more check-ins for new mothers, not even new mothers, all mothers. After giving birth.
I agree. And I just feel like there's not enough attention put towards postpartum.
Yeah. Maybe even like a mandatory 8-week mental health checkup after you have a baby, like follow-up 6 weeks,
and
8 weeks,
and it's
12
crazy
weeks.
because, and again, the reason that I feel like people don't take this serious is because so many of these cases you hear doctors tell them they need to take their medication. They cannot be alone with these kids and do not continue to have more children.
Yeah.
Do not do it. And I think people just don't believe it. I think, they're probably like, oh, either they're just acting, they're making this up for attention because,
they'll get better.
The new baby's born, so they want the attention on them and not the baby or whatever. But this is like serious stuff. And I just feel like it really needs to.
Giving birth fucks with your hormones.
With everything.
Yeah. It doesn't even make like that's like with different people, it affects them differently. With me, I got anxiety and panic attacks after giving birth. Like, I just feel like.
And I was the opposite. With both of my pregnancies, I never felt better.
See,
if I could just be pregnant all the time
the pregnancy
and feel
wasn't the
like
problem.
I did when I was pregnant, I felt great.
The hormones. Yeah.
I was good. Like, and after I had my kids, I really didn't go through, I feel like I was truly very, very lucky with all of that. And I don't think it just, I don't think it just affects people who come from, families that have mental illness in their family. I think that this can just hit anybody.
Yeah.
It's not just certain people that are depressed. I mean, you have people who have everything. Money, everything.
If you Google postpartum and I guess crimes that are similar to this, it happens more often than we think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
because
it's happening.
I mean, the severity of this is just, I feel like something you don't hear about. Like, it wasn't, to me, this was so much more than just killing your child.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like earlier I was mentioning, I don't remember the name and I'm sorry, but just recently in the news, it happened at the end of 2022 or the beginning of 2023. All my years blend together now that I get older. But the mother who killed her children and tried to hang herself, and she ended up living. And, the father of the children coming to her defense and, saying like this wasn't her. It's a blip in the news.
Yeah.
Like I heard about it for the first maybe, week or two, and then haven't heard anything since. Like, so, just it needs to be
it's I just feel like more needs to be done for
and I think,
these women.
Honestly, I think people are afraid to talk about it.
Of course.
Some of the thoughts and feelings that I had, luckily I had Kim, who has kids around my kids' age, and we can talk to each other about it and stuff, and things that we were thinking of and the dreams you have, and like not necessarily hallucinations, not necessarily hallucinations, but we'll get past that word. But like thoughts came in my head, like really weird, creepy, like thoughts would creep into my head while I'm giving my kids a bath. Like, just like, and it wasn't like I wanted to do anything to harm them, but like,
why am I thinking this?
Yeah. What if they fell and slipped in and they drowned? Like just these weird thoughts that you kind of question yourself. Like, I love my kids so much. Why the heck are these thoughts coming into your head?
Yeah.
Luckily I had another mother that I can sit there and we bounce these things off each other and like, hey, and she's like, oh my gosh, yes, I feel that way sometimes too. Or I get those thoughts sometimes too. So you don't feel like you're going crazy.
Yeah, of course.
But I think there's a lot of hush hush to it because people will think, oh, if you're not happy right after having a baby and you're not saying how good it is and how great and how much you love your kids, something's wrong with you.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with you.
No.
It's
such an overwhelming process.
Yeah. It's those hormones.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Because it's not like just, like you go in the hospital and you have surgery and you get to come home and recover.
Yeah.
Like you come home with the baby. There's no resting.
No.
It's a whole different ball game,
Absolutely.
So,
definitely, we'll put up some mental health numbers and where you can seek help if you
know anybody.
Like this.
Yeah. If you know anybody that needs help, or if you yourself needs help,
we'll definitely have the numbers up.
Yeah. Definitely don't ever, think that you shouldn't reach out. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely.
For sure. Definitely.
Don't try to deal with it on your own.
No.
Message us. We'll talk to you.
Yeah.
We're moms.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. We're both moms. We've done it.
Yeah.
So
but thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for listening. I know this was a rough one. But I did want to cover it because number one, it was asked for by a listener, and also again, I think it's definitely something that needs to be talked about
more. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you would like to follow us, we are at 50 States of Madness on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. And you can follow us on all podcast platforms. Thank you to our Patreons too. Yes. Subscribe, like, and comment.
Hit the little bell notification.
I know this is probably a hard one to comment on, but
definitely.
But I also wanted to give a little update too before we
sign off,
say goodbye. I don't remember the name, so my apologies. But somebody had commented on our episode of Natalia Grace, and they had said that because we were saying it was a very one-sided
episode
or series. Apparently, at the end of summer, her story is coming out.
Oh, awesome!
So we will definitely watch that, and then possibly do a part 2 on that. So
absolutely,
yeah. So thank you for all of your comments. We've really been appreciating hearing from all of you guys. And we will be back next week.
Thank you so much for watching. Bye. Bye.